big week, and we are very excited to be getting you all set up for the Belmont Stakes. It's the Daily Racing Form Belmont Stakes preview show. I am Gino Bacola alongside Alexa Zepp with producer Lucia pulling the strings. Alexa, we have a really exciting Belmont Stakes coming up. We're going to get to the field in just a minute, but we want everyone to be able to follow along with us. So at Daily Racing Form, we have a free player's guide that all the folks out here can follow along with. You can scan the QR code right there, and this will take you to analysis for each of the horses in the Belmont. You get different handicappers showing you how they're going to play the race. You get stuff for all of Saturday. So this is great. It's free, so you might as well take the resource. One thing I do as a handicapper, I try to be a sponge. Get all the info that I can and then make a final decision.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been watching our show for a while or if you're new to it, but you have an interest in horse racing, it's not really your normal cup of tea if you're a sports bettor, but you're interested, this is a great weekend to get involved because it's a big race. Obviously, it's Belmont, third leg of the Triple Crown. There's a ton of great stakes races, and we have such a cool tool that is free and gives you so much insight and can help you on your journey to become a horse racing handicapper.
So the narrative for this Belmont Stakes, the way they're going to set it all up, we've got the Kentucky Derby winner versus the Preakness winner. We've also got the top three finishers from the Kentucky Derby all running back. So it's a field of 8, Alexa. It's not a group of 20 like we had in the Derby, but as far as quality, it's about as good as we could have hoped for with those top 3 finishers. And then you've got a Bob Baffert runner. You've got a couple Todd Pletcher runners. So we're talking the top barns in the game and some of the top horses in this division. You ready to meet the field?
Absolutely. It drew very strong this year, in my opinion. So it's going to be a very competitive race.
I agree. I am pumped. And remember, because the races are running at Saratoga, this Belmont Stakes is 1.25 miles, not 1.5 miles. It's been the second year that there'll be races at Saratoga because they're renovating Belmont. Belmont, we just found the news that they're going to be hosting a Breeders' Cup in one of the coming years. So they're going to get everything all renovated. They're going to get it all up to date. And we are going to now talk about the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga 2025. We get things started with the number 1 Hill Road. This is a horse, Alexa, who's a closer. That's his running style. He's always showed ability in his few starts in the U.S. He hasn't really done much wrong. He just is a late running horse who kind of needs the right setup in a race. And he's had a couple different times where he's had like little small issues where he got sick, his training got backed up. What I like about him coming into this race is we're seeing his replay of him winning the Peter Pan, which is a prep race for this. And he's going to be able to string a couple races together for one of the best trainers in the game, Chad Brown.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he won the Peter Pan and he's a closer, but the only thing is like 2/3 of this field are closers. So right. It's going to be not necessarily a super big pace advantage for them. But the figure he ran there that you just saw in the Peter Pan is like a little bit slower than you need to be competitive here, but not that far off. And he's got really good connections with his trainer and jockey Irad. So he has the connection set up to make an impact here. You see it on Time From US, he has the late pace flag, meaning he does have the strongest late pace in the race. So it's just a matter of how the race is going to set up for him. And if he can take that little step up to really be competitive with the top of the top in here.
So there's a big 3 in this race, the top 3 finishers of the Kentucky Derby. And one of those was the winner of the Kentucky Derby, Sovereignty. The news, kind of shocked some and maybe upset some that he was not going to run in the Preakness after winning the Kentucky Derby. But this is a trainer, Bill Mott, who has never really been good with running horses back quickly. And so it wasn't something that they even thought of. There were some quotes where he said, like, we didn't even think about running in the Preakness. It was never on our mind. Nonetheless, he's back now in the Belmont, and it sets up this matchup with Kentucky Derby winner against the Preakness winner. Sovereignty is one of those closers, though, that you were talking about, Alexa. The Kentucky Derby set up beautifully for him with all that early speed and the way the track was playing also. He seemed to really like the wet track and the moisture there. So those are 2 things that he got on Kentucky Derby Saturday that I'm not sure if Sovereignty is going to get this weekend, that pace. And we're not sure what the weather is going to be like. It looks like it might rain on Saturday, but I don't know if it's going to rain in the days leading up, like Thursday, Friday into Saturday. What do you think about the Derby winner in here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a talented horse. He won the Derby. Like you said, it did go his way that day, though. He's fresher than Journalism, some Journalisms who won the Preakness and got second in the Derby. So if Journalism wins this, I mean, he was very, very close to being a Triple Crown winner. And so it is kind of this setup and showdown, right? To see who the best is. And Sovereignty has a leg up on him having that rest time, where Journalism has run two really tough big races in such a short amount of time. So I mean, yeah, Sovereignty is super talented. He absolutely can win this race. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not using him in here, actually. I have him on the lower part of my tickets because I just think, from what I've seen, some others in here have shown more grit and have shown that they overcome more like race scenarios than Sovereignty has.
Maybe a little more adaptable, maybe a little versatile, right? They can kind of, like you're saying, however this race shapes up, they might be able to put up a good effort. Rodriguez is an interesting horse in here because as we look at the pace projector, Rodriguez should be one of the horses towards the front. Both the 3 and the 5 are the two that look like they're going to be the speed horses. Now, if both of those horses, Alexa, go out front and start to battle each other, neither one of their chances to win is all that great. But if one of the two of them can kind of sneak away and gain an advantage, like if Rodriguez were able to clear the field, he would be a horse that could be a little scary. My knocks on him, my concerns would be, we haven't seen him since this race we're watching. And this was the Wood Memorial. Remember, he had a little issue going into the Kentucky Derby, so he had to miss the Derby. He didn't run in the Preakness. He's fine now. I'm just worried about his fitness level after not having run in 2 months, facing a lot of these other really good, sharp horses, the tip-top horses in the division. That would be my concern. But from a race shape standpoint, there are very good chances that he could be one of a couple horses out front in here and get a pretty good lead, and kind of an easy lead if he wants to.
100%. I really like Rodriguez in here. I feel for Rodriguez. He's missed the 2 big races, right? He had that quarter crack and it just kept him from running in the Derby and the Preakness, but he's been working out really consistently. He's a Bob Baffert runner, and Baffert does something you don't see very often in workouts, where he gives them very long workouts. Usually you might see, a 3 or 4 furlong workout, 5 furlong workout, but he just had a 7 furlong workout and prep for today. So he's building up that fitness. And the pace advantage is going to be huge in here. I think he'll clear the field. I understand Crudo's the other speed, the 5, but I really think Rodriguez is a better pace horse. And I think there's a solid chance that he gets the lead and runs away with it, or he at least stays in the top 2 or 3, like hits the board because he gets an advantage. And if he does get caught, he's not like fading to the back. He's getting nipped at the wire. So I like Rodriguez in here. I like the odds at 6-1 because I think he's really talented. And those odds are great just because he's been off for a while and we haven't seen as much from him in this Derby season.
He's probably the horse that's going to have the lead when they turn for home, right? Yeah. That's a scary situation if you don't have that horse in some of your tickets, especially when it's a horse trained by Bob Baffert, who we know has some talent. We move on to the number 4, Uncaged. The 2 late additions to this race were both Todd Pletcher runners, and they're going to be right next to each other in Uncaged and in Crudo. Uncaged, honestly, Alexa, is a horse who I think I picked in the Peter Pan. I like this horse overall as a horse, but he didn't run that well that day. And now he's going to enter the toughest race of his life off of a really disappointing effort. He's just a hard horse for me to build a case for and to give you reasons why I would like him in here.
Yeah, I don't like him at all. I mean, he's won 2 out of his 4 starts, but both of those were a lot shorter and they were also in the mud. So maybe if we get some weather, then he might be one you're like, okay, he's a mudder, but his speed figures are about 20% lower than what they really need to be competitive in here. And he was 10 lengths off of Hill Road in the Peter Pan, who was one who I see in here as a valid long shot, but it's still a long shot. So if you're 10 lengths off of a valid long shot, to me, you're probably a toss.
We'll finish up with Crudo before we take a break, and then we'll hit Baeza Journalism and Heart of Honor after the break. So Crudo, the other speed horse in here, but it sounds like you liked Rodriguez better of the 2 speeds. Here's Crudo. We saw just a couple weeks ago at Pimlico getting a win. You think he has a shot in here?
He's never been against graded stakes companies, so there's that. He's been kind of geared down a little bit in his recent starts, so his speed figures might not be a true representation of his talent, but I still think it's a stretch.
There's Crudo drawing off. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll get to Baeza and finish up the field for the Belmont. 6, Baeza finished third in the Kentucky Derby. But remember, he had to draw way out wide, Alexa. He was in the post that ended up being post 19. He was the number 21 in the field. So when you look at the way he's raced, his running style, that was the race where he came from way, way out of it. I think it was because of the post. Pratt just sort of made a decision, took back, and then came running late. In his races before that, though, he showed a lot more positional speed. He could be one of the real key horses in here. Like if Rodriguez goes to the lead and if Crudo is second, maybe pushing him, I could see Baeza sitting maybe right behind them. Can he be the horse that maybe gets the jump on journalism, on sovereignty, and some of these other closers?
Yeah, I mean, he could, if he sits a really nice trip and the speed burns themselves out a little bit, he absolutely could take it. I was so happy he did so well in the Derby. Like if you watched our Derby coverage, leading up to it, this is the one I talked about a lot, whose mom is Puka, who gave birth to the 2023 Derby winner and the 2024 Belmont Stakes winner, Dornoch. So this race last year. So it'd be quite the legacy to have two back-to-back Belmont winners out of the same mare. But yeah, he's really talented. He's a lightly raced. He even had some trouble early on in the Derby. So I think that makes his third place effort, like you're saying, with the outside draw and the trouble really, really impressive. So he's a definite contender in here.
Number 7, journalism. He's the man. He has been so impressive in his last couple. And Alexa, I was a little worried thinking about the quick racing for him. He raced in the Derby, the Preakness, and then now back in the Belmont. Watching him the last few days, producer Lucia has been out there in the morning. She was posting some videos of him on the track in the mornings. Oh my goodness, he looks incredible. He is prancing around like jaw-dropping. He does not look like a horse that has had a lot taken out of him. And I wonder, as much as people ask, does the quick racing and a lot of racing in a short time take something out of a horse? Does it build something up in a horse, right? This stamina, this fitness level, this confidence and comfortability that we don't see with other horses because they don't run all that much anymore. I just became a huge fan. I think you heard me squeal when on Saturday in the Preakness. I was like, he's gonna get there.
Oh! I was gonna tell that story because so this horse, right, runner up in the Derby, won the Preakness. You just saw the replay. So he was like stuck behind horse. And you could tell he had a lot of horse, but couldn't get through. He gets through. And then I'm even like, I don't know if he's going to get there because he's just had so much ground to make up. And we're in this nice area at Preakness and it's dead silent. And I just hear Gino, he's going to get him. Like, cause he just saw that he had more and he was going to get him. And he did. And he won. And it was, it gave me chills. Like,
me too,
it was so impressive to see a horse have so much grit and determination, so much class to win that race. And it was just awesome. And then now, he looks like a machine. He looks totally within himself. I love journalism. I hope he wins. I think if he does, in my mind, a Triple Crown winner, just as good. What a talented horse. So I love journalism in here. He is the favorite, but I don't think he's going to be a super low odds favorite because you have Sovereignty, you have these other ones in here. So you can definitely bet him and make money. He might be a little less than plus 200, but still decent odds for such a talented horse.
It seems like his trainer and his owners and his jockey, I think they feel like they want another shot at Sovereignty, which I like. Yeah. There's this competitiveness between them. I think they feel like one more shot on Saturday, they could turn the tables on that one. We round things out with the long shot, Heart of Honor. What do you think about this one? Can you make a case for him?
He hasn't won since January at Maidan. He had multiple impressive second place finishes out there, has been out once in the US, which is a few weeks ago in the Preakness. That day he was fractious going into the gate. So it wasn't necessarily the most comfortable, but the competition is not getting any easier today. I think this is a harder race than the Preakness was. And so I'm sure he will improve second time out in the US, but I don't think it's going to be substantial enough to take on this company on Saturday.
I feel very similar, expecting a better effort, but this is a tougher group. Let's move to selections, and then we'll see how we would bet this race with a $100 bankroll. So 6-7 for me, Alexa, 7-6 for you. I'm going to give Baeza just a shot based on value, but I have become such a fan of journalism. I'm not leaving him out of any of my multiple exotics. He's going to be all over the place for me. How are you going to bet this race? If we gave you $100, how would you play this race?
Yeah, so I'm going to smash an exacta. My second pick's actually the 3, not the 6. So I like
Okay, Rodriguez.
journalism over Rodriguez and then Baeza.
Okay.
But so I'm going to put journalism and Rodriguez on the top because I think Rodriguez does have a good shot of wiring the field if he just gets the lead and runs away with it. And then I think if somebody's going to catch him, it's probably going to be journalism. So I have those on top. And then underneath, I've added Baeza. And so it's a $25 exacta, which costs $100. And I think it should pay anywhere from like 8-1 to 25 or 30-1 if you get some of the bigger prices in there.
Yeah, the key is when you're making your wagers, right? This isn't quite like the Kentucky Derby where anything that you bet is going to win you back a lot of money. This is a smaller field. So you just gotta, if you're going to bet something, you probably don't want to have journalism, sovereignty, and Baeza, all three, the 1, 2, 3, top 3 choices, because then it's not going to really pay much. You got to sort of take a stand and pick which one of those 3 maybe you don't like as much. And for both me and Alexa, as we move to my wagers, we both kind of faded sovereignty a little bit, just thinking that maybe he ran his big race on Kentucky Derby Day and maybe the race doesn't shape up as well for him. So I split this up. I'm going to play a $25 exacta box, 6-7, which me and Alexa could both hit. If journalism wins and Baeza runs second, we could both hit this thing. And then just because if I think Baeza and sovereignty and journalism are all pretty evenly matched, if Baeza ends up being 4-1 and double the price of the other 2, I think that offers pretty nice value. Wager on that horse who I think is right in the group with the other 2, and I'm going to give him a shot. Remember, he might also be able to sit the trip that gets the jump on journalism and sovereignty. So my win wager on Baeza, $50 there, and then my $25 exacta box. The word box means that it can come in either way. So it can come in 6-7 or 7-6. It doubles up your wager though. So my $25 wager cost me $50. That equals my $100 bankroll. So there's a look at the Belmont and how me and Alexa will play it, but it's not just about the Belmont on Saturday, Alexa. There are some incredible grade 1 races, the tip top of the racing level. Check out the Belmont Stakes wagering guide to get you all ready for Saturday. We'll talk more about it when we return. Let's go back in time a little bit. Earlier on the card on Saturday, Belmont Stakes Saturday, is one of the most prestigious races in North America that's run every year, the Met Mile. Now, in the past, Alexa, this was a race that was actually run on Memorial Day weekend, but they moved it to Belmont Day to have this like incredible Belmont Stakes Day with all the big races. And the Met Mile that we're going to look at, it's a small field, but it's a group of really, really talented horses. Like, in particular, 4 of the 5 horses you can make a strong case for. They would not shock me at all to see Fierceness, White Barrio, Just a Touch, or Raging Torrent. Castle Chaos would probably be a shock. He seems a little bit overmatched by them. But this is one of those big races that is like a stallion-making race. It's good for pedigree and for breeding. And we've got some really nice horses in it this year.
Yeah, I mean, these are the best of the best, right? Like you said, anybody other than Castle Chaos has a shot in here, I think. Big names, like even if you're not a huge racing fan or you don't follow it all the time, if you just tune in for big races, you're probably going to recognize a couple of these, like Fierceness, the one.
Yeah. And we'll start with Fierceness, who was actually the favorite in last year's Kentucky Derby. And he didn't run well in the Kentucky Derby, but after that, it's like he blossomed. He grew up. He came back. He wins the Jim Dandy. He wins the Travers. He's second in the Breeders' Cup Classic and runs a huge race, finishing second. And then he came back this year in his first start as a 4-year-old, and he was really good. He won the Ali Sheba. He's a perfect 3 for 3 at Saratoga. There's just so many positive things to say about him. Not much to knock.
No, there's not. I mean, this is an Eclipse Award-winning beast of a horse. He won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. So, I mean, eyes have been on him his entire career, and deservingly so. He just had his first back after a 6-month layoff since the Classic and won dominantly, right? So you would expect an improvement after a long layoff. He'll want to be forwardly placed, but also has just so much tactical ability. He's an even money, plus 100, deserving favorite, who's going to be tough in here. And if you see Time from US, they do predict he'll win.
He did just beat a horse named Most Wanted, and that horse came back and won really nicely last weekend. So he's even beating horses who are in good form. White Abario is the next one we'll take a look at. He is a 4-time Grade 1 winner, but he hasn't had a whole lot of success in this race through the years, Alexa. He was 3rd in this race in 2023. He was 5th last year, but he didn't really fire. But this race is one of his big performances. And when he's on and he's good, he is as good as any horse in training right now in the U.S.
Absolutely. So if he wins this race, it's going to put his earnings well over 7 million, closer to 8 million. He won the Grade 1 Whitney at Saratoga 2 years ago, and like you said, ran in this race last year, and was a favorite in there, less than 2-1 odds, and disappointed. And there really wasn't a huge excuse that day. So just every now and then he doesn't fire, but the rest of the time he's an absolute beast. He can win on the lead. He can sit off and come from behind. And he's coming off a little bit of a layoff, but he's won off of short layoffs before. And he's got a lot of quick workouts. He's pretty tightened up and ready, I think, for Saturday.
Of the 5, Castle Chaos almost feels like he's kind of filler in this race, just kind of in here to kind of help this race go, because I don't see any races that could compete with probably the other 4 horses in here.
No, I mean, he's been close on a couple Grade 2 and Grade 3s, but for the most part, this level just looks over his head.
Just a Touch is a really interesting horse, Alexa, because he comes into this race off of back-to-back victories. He's lightly raced, but he's going to make his 3rd start now of the year. This was his 2nd start of the year, and this was a monster performance when he won by 7 lengths. I think he is a real contender in here. Like, I think he has a major shot to try to beat the 2 horses to the inside. He actually might be quicker than them early, and that could possibly be like where he gets his advantage.
Yeah, I mean, he was a popular long shot in last year's Kentucky Derby. He totally disappointed, but he had encountered trouble, actually had to stop in the race. So, he's dominated since then in some lower level races. But, I mean, I think he's really strong in here. He's got really strong connections. Brad Cox, Jackie Florent Giroux, they're both really formidable connections. They win 26% of the time when they join forces. I think he looks fresh and primed and ready, and he's my top pick.
Raging Torrent rounds out the field. He's a Group 2 winner. He's also a Grade 1 winner in the U.S. He's in really nice form. I just worry about the distance. He won at a mile last time out. I think his best is like 7 furlongs, and he's going to make his first start in a couple months against really tough horses going a mile. So that would be my only concern, but he's really talented.
He's really talented, resume over $1 million as well. I think he'll probably want to be the leader, as you see on the pace projector. He's just not quite as tested as some of the other big names in here either. So a great horse, but tough to beat. Tough to beat the others.
Well, we're going to go to our commercial break here, but you can see our selections for this one. They're the exact same. 4, 1, 2, 5. We'll both put Just a Touch right on top. When we return, we'll move to the Woody Stephens on the Saturday undercard. Move to the Woody Stephens, one of my favorite races every year, Alexa, because you have the 3-year-old horses sprinting in here. Some of the horses who didn't get a chance to make it into the Kentucky Derby starting gate, or maybe that was too far for them. They couldn't go in the Belmont. I love this group. But before we get into the group, we want to remind you one more time about the Belmont Stakes Players Guide. It's the wagering guide. Scan that QR code. It'll help you out with everything you need to be successful on Saturday, Belmont Day. In-depth analysis for all the contenders and help with the races leading into the Belmont, like this race, the 11th race on Saturday at Saratoga, the Grade 1 Woody Stephens, $500,000 up for grabs. And these are sprinters. These are the horses who tried to go a little bit longer, Alexa, but they couldn't, or maybe they're just really fast horses that don't want to go that far. We start things out with Big Trues, who comes into this race off of a runner-up effort. He's going to have to turn the tables on Patch Adams. I don't have my red clown nose for Patch Adams. I know you and I like that one a little bit. I should have had it on here, channeling my inner Robin Williams. But Big Trues was the runner-up last time out. Do you think he can turn the tables on Patch or hit the board in here?
I mean, he's only been out twice, never done worse than second, with a win on the record. And both of those starts, he sat a few lengths off the pace and then tried to grind him down in the later stages. Like you said, he got caught by Patch Adams last out. He's returning. I honestly think 10-1 or plus 1,000 feels really long on him. And I can definitely see using him, at least in the exotics. Like, I wouldn't throw shade at that at all. He really hasn't shown us anything bad so far in his career. And he's such a young in his career.
Yeah, there are like most of this field you can make a case for. Like, there are only a few horses that you'll immediately maybe eliminate or think are in a little bit too tough. Like the 2 and the 3, both Madaket Road and Macho Music come out of the Pat Day Mile. They were the first and second place finishers in the Pat Day Mile, which is a really logical stepping stone race to this race here. I do think that this race, the Woody Stevens, is probably a little tougher on paper than the Pat Day Mile was, but I mean, both the 2 and the 3, neither one of them would shock me at all. Madaket Road was a horse who was in the Florida Derby and the Rebel, and he was one of those horses that just didn't quite want to go that far, or maybe he was a cut below some of those horses who are good horses like Tapan Street and Sovereignty. He wasn't far behind all of them. What do you think about Madaket Road? And then we can even move to Macho Music. They both exit that same race.
Yeah, Madaket Road, tons of experience going against tough company, right? He's had 6 career starts and 5 of them are graded stakes. Hasn't won any of them, but almost always hits the board. He's got the best early pace rating. You see that on the pace projector there. I mean, Timeform predicts him to actually stick around and win this. He has been running in some longer races and fading, so I think the little bit shorter cutback and distance should benefit him. This is a tough group though, right? You can make a case for a lot. I do like Macho Music though. He's won his last 2 efforts in a row by wiring the field, and that's actually how he's won all 4 of his victories. So he is a likely need the lead type. But again, looking at the pace projector, he should be able to get it or really close to that from the jump. And his consistent improvement and win streak, I think, makes him a really attractive play at pretty long odds at plus 800.
The number 4 is Patch Adams. Alexa, if you just isolate his shorter races, his sprint races, he's awesome. It just seemed like when they stretched him out, they went a little bit longer. They wanted to see if they had a Kentucky Derby horse, right? A lot of people do. They want to, you have a good horse. How good is he? How far can he go? Well, they tried the Southwest and they tried the Tampa Bay Derby. Just didn't seem like he wanted to go that long. But when he cut back at Churchill Downs in his most recent race, it was excellent. He actually ran a really good speed figure. Like, he fits well with this group. And I think you like him a little bit too.
I do. I mean, he's never not gone off the favorite, which says a lot about how the public, likes
his reputation. Yeah.
Yeah. I think his ideal trip would be sitting closer to the pace than the projector has him early on. I think the setup actually makes sense for him in here, and the improvement in his recent races, I feel like he's in peak form. He's really talented, and the distance is his specialty distance. So I like Patch Adams a lot.
Citizen Bull, the number 5, was actually the 2-year-old champ last year. He won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and he came into this year as a horse who was one of the top horses in his division. But he didn't really run well in the Santa Anita Derby. And then in the Kentucky Derby, he drew the 1 post and he went veered out right out of the starting gate and was bumping around all over the place. But Bob Baffert trains him and he's given him some time to recover. He's now going to cut him back. The blinkers come off for the 3rd start of the Forum cycle. Can the 2-year-old champ get back to some of his races from last year?
I don't know, Gino. I mean, again, we obviously know he has that talent with it himself, but yeah, the Derby was just unfortunate. Drawing the 1 hole when you're a horse who wants the lead is not great.
Yeah. No
and he's been training really well for Bob. He's going to want that lead. I just think it's going to be a really hot, fast, coveted pace setup in this race, and I just don't know if he's going to get there.
T Craft, he's sharp, Alexa. He's won 3 in a row, but those were against a lot softer competition. This is going to be way, way tougher. Do you think he can jump up and compete with these?
This is such a huge ask. I mean, it's from Preakness winning trainer Belmont, so he's good at training horses and knows where to put him. And he's continually improving. But no, I think this is too tough of a spot for too big of a jump.
Colloquial has been really impressive in his 3 races. His only loss was in his debut. He lost by a nose. Then he came back in his second start. He won by 7 lengths in the Lafayette Stakes. And that was his third start that we're going to look at right here. This was his second win. So he's been very, very good. He's quick, but he can sit off the pace a little bit. I don't really have many knocks on him.
No, I like Colloquial. In 6-1 odds plus 600, that's really decent, especially if you throw them in on your multi-race wagers, kind of like your parlay tickets. But yeah, 2 for 3 in his life. The one he lost was by a nose. He likes the lead. He likes the short distance. His speed figure from February was like scary fast. So, I mean, if he can run back to that, he definitely has the ability in here.
It feels like in this race, we might end up with a lot of horses that are between like 3-1 and 5 or 6-1. There could be a few that are all in that range because they're evenly matched. Gunmetal has won 2 of his 3 races. He goes out for trainer Brad Cox. Irad Ortiz Jr. is aboard. Like, he's a very solid connections play. I don't like him as much as some of the others in here, but I don't even really know why, right? He's not quite done anything wrong. I just sort of like some of the others more.
I totally like do you know, it's like you were reading from my notes. I mean, we have the same stuff. This is another bit of a class jump for him, but the connections are so strong. I mean, Brad's so good at placing his horses, 26% graded stakes winners, 29% if they're coming off a win, 27% off of a short layoff. He's got a great jockey. He's got a good price. I mean, I would not shame anyone for even playing this horse to win, but it's just a competitive race, so I've left him off. But yeah, there's nothing bad about this horse.
There's Gunmetal winning at Keeneland. We moved to Neo Equus. He ran in the Kentucky Derby. He didn't really finish well. He was part of the early speed, but in the races before that, he was 3rd in the Fountain of Youth. He was 3rd in the Florida Derby, and he was just behind Sovereignty and Tapan Street and River Thames. Some really nice horses. He's trained by Saffie Joseph Jr. on the cutback. I think he'll run a lot better here cutting back in distance.
Yeah, I'm passing on him this weekend. I just feel like his figures have been a bit stagnant, and he's going to want a piece of that early pace, and I just think it's going to be too contentious for him. I'm afraid he won't get there like he didn't in the Derby.
Chancellor McPatrick is a multiple grade 1 winner, but his best races were last year, Alexa. He doesn't seem like he's really progressed from 2 to 3 yet. Maybe it was the distance. Maybe he wasn't ready. Do you think he can be a player in here cutting back and shortening up here?
I actually like Chancellor McPatrick in here. You know, he's a closer, and considering how much pace contention there's going to be, I think that should help. And he, like you said, hasn't won since last year, but won a 7 furlong grade 1 at Saratoga, the grade 1 hopeful. So I think this race is setting up similarly, and he's already kind of done it in these similar, you know, distance and track scenarios. So I do like Chancellor McPatrick.
We'll take a quick look at Gate to Wire, who's a stakes winner, graded stakes play, finished 4th in the Pat Day Mile. I think he's a little better than that. I could see him being an interesting horse from off the pace as we pull up selections here for the Woody Stevens. How are you going to stack them up, Alexa?
We both got Patch Adams on top, and then I think we saw it a little bit differently underneath. I've got Matcha Music, Chancellor McPatrick, and Colloquial.
Yeah, I've got Patch Adams on top, and then underneath, as Alexa mentioned, some differences because it's a very tough competitive race. We'll take a break. When we return, we'll preview the Manhattan. Each and every year, one of the most prestigious turf races in North America is the Grade 1 Manhattan. And this year, it's going to go as race number 12 on the Belmont Saturday card. So it's going to go right before race number 13, which is the Belmont. That makes this a really important race, Alexa. If you were going to play any of the parlays or those multiple exotics leading you into the Belmont, you have to be correct about the Manhattan. So let's meet the field for this Grade 1 event, 1 mile and 3/16 the distance, and $1 million up for grabs as we begin with Endlessly, who is trained by Michael McCarthy, who won the Preakness, who is ridden by Umberto Rispoli, who won the Preakness. This is that same jockey-trainer combo with journalism. So Endlessly will try to win the 12th and the 13th for the very same connections. I think he's going to run better than he did last time, Alexa, because he finished 3rd, and it was his first start since July. He's a sneaky, talented horse. He actually ran in the Kentucky Derby last year.
Yeah, he did. And he had a long break, right? He took second half of his 3-year-old year and kind of the first half of the 4-year-old year off. So his 4-year-old debut in late April in that grade 3 American, got third place, like you said. And, one of the horses that beat him that day came back to run really, really big. And he wasn't that far off of him. So I definitely would expect an improvement. But I still think he needs to have, this is a big jump for him. And you see that reflected in the odds, right? With a prediction of plus 2,000 or 20-1.
Yeah, it feels like he will run better, but he's going to have to run so much better to be competitive with this group because horses like the 2 Integration, Pratt jumps back on the 2. He's a multiple graded stakes winner. He had a brutal trip last time out. He got trapped behind horses. He just didn't really ever get much of a shot to run in that race. He hasn't won a grade 1, but he's been pretty competitive when he stepped up to this level. The last couple times we saw in the Pegasus World Cup and the Maker's Mark, he was second in both of those races before that trouble trip last time out. What do you think about Integration?
Yeah, I like Integration a lot. He's consistently run in such tough races his entire career. He's hit the board in 9 out of 13 starts. I mean, that's very impressive considering the quality of races that those have been. He's the tracker closing type, definitely prefers these long turf route races. So, and like you said, has had a big year getting second in 2 really, really big races. So I like him. The only other time that Flavian has ridden him, he won. So I do think he's a play.
Highway Robber comes into this race off of a really good third place finish. He finished third in the Turf Classic. He was behind one of his rivals in here, Spirit of St. Louis. That's a nice performance. He'll have to kind of show back up with something like that in here, but I don't really want to knock him too much off of that effort. It's just I like a few others more in here, but he should be a pretty fair price.
Yeah, I mean, he switched to the Brian Lynch barn and then ran his fastest speed figure ever, so maybe they unlocked something there. He's definitely a deep closer. Most of his races start with him in last place. So if he gets a clean trip and a pace to run at, he has the ability, but I'm concerned that I don't see the pace necessarily setting up that way. I don't think it's going to be exceptionally fast. So that could present a problem for him. But if it is faster than expected and falls apart, he could be a piece of the puzzle.
There are 3 horses in this race who were recently trained by Christophe Clement, who sadly passed away just last week. But the horses will stay in the family with Miguel Clement taking over the training. And Carson's Run and Deterministic, the next 2 we talk about, were both Christophe Clement trainees. Both of them are pretty talented. They just kind of opposite ends of the spectrum with running styles, right? Carson's Run is more of a deeper closer. He's going to sit back. He's going to make one late run, but he is a multiple grade 1 winner. And then Deterministic, he's gotten really fast recently. Like they've used his speed and they put him on the front end, and that helped him win the Fort Marcy. So if you want to kind of group the 2 Clement runners and talk about which of them you like or which maybe you didn't like.
Yeah, I mean, considering the pace setup, right, where I don't think there's going to be a ton of pace, I definitely think it sets up a lot better for Deterministic. Carson's Run's going to want to be kind of, at the back of the pack and might not have the pace he needs to run at. But Deterministic, I like a lot. I think he should be the pace setter. He's made the lead and tried to wire in his 2 most recent starts. And I think taking that approach again to Saturday would probably be the best tactic. But, he's also won multiple graded 6 races from sitting a few lengths off the pace. So he has some tactical ability if they decide to hold him back a little bit. But I think he's the strongest contender from Miguel Clement.
Spirit of St. Louis is the next one we move to. He's a multiple grade 1 winner. And if you look at his last 4 races, he's won 3 of them, and 2 of them are probably on the list of like the 5 most prestigious turf races in the US. So he is winning like the absolute top level races. It's hard to knock him off of that recent form.
Yeah, I mean, he beat Highway Robber and Integration earlier in the year. He's another closer, but earlier in his career, we saw him sit a lot closer to the pace. He's usually no more than like 4 lengths or so off the lead. So I think he'll have a leg up on some of these other deeper closers we talked about in here. And, I think he's the favorite, right? The morning line favorite at 5-2, but like he went off the favorite last time, but it was 3-1 or plus 300. So really tepid favorite. And I expect the same in here. So I think you can use him and still make good money.
And I want to give Alexa credit because she pegged this horse at 8-1 when he won the Pegasus World Cup Turf a couple months back in January. Tucson is lightly raced. He's won 3 of his 4 starts. This is a big step up in class, though, and he's going to be facing a lot more seasoned horses in here. Can you make a case for this lightly raced guy?
I mean, this is just such a big test, a second time on turf, first time against great stakes company, let alone graded stakes company. So I'm going to wait and see on Tucson.
Corruption is grade 3 placed. He feels like he's a speed horse in here. He's won 4 of his last 5. I think they're going to try to put him on the front end, and this will be kind of an acid test for him because he really hasn't faced groups like this repeatedly. He was close to Far Bridge, who we'll talk about in a second, but he hasn't really faced a full group this good.
Yeah, and he's took a long time to get here, right? So he had one race in 2023, one race in 2024, and now this year he's run 5 times already since joining the Mark Casse barn, and that's quite a grind, but his speed figures are improving. He continues to do well. I think he can handle – I like him underneath as a long shot.
And we round out the field with Far Bridge. He's in really nice form. He's won 4 of his last 5. He's a grade 1 winner. But a lot of his best races, Alexa, have been going farther than this. That's my biggest concern. It's not that he can't get the trip, but it seems like he's better going a little bit longer, like 1.5 miles, 1 mile and 3/8. This is only 1 mile and 3/16. We're watching him here victorious in the Man of War. What do you think about Far Bridge rounding out the field?
He's going to take money, so you're not going to get crazy good odds on him. He got 3rd place in this race last year. I'm choosing to leave him off, but he's very talented.
Let's pull up selections as we get ready for our break. I'm going to throw the 2 integration on top, 2, 4, 6, 9 for me. Alexa goes to the speed of the 5 deterministic, but don't go anywhere. Plenty more to come when we return. For our final segment, let's get into the wagers. How are we going to play Saturday at the Belmont Stakes Day at Saratoga? It's the big day. I'm going to get into a pick 5, and I'll pass the baton to Alexa for a pick 3. So if you want to play into like some bigger pools and maybe shoot for some massive money, you can jump aboard with me on the pick 5. Let's take a look at the ticket I've put together. It's just over $100. So we're going to spend $108 on this ticket. Remember, it's like a parlay, but we just have to have one winner of each of the races to move on to the next race. So race number 9, it's the grade 1 Jaipur. It's a sprint race, some of the best sprinters in the country. The 2, Think Big, he's in great form. He has won 3 in a row. He's the horse to beat. The 4, My Boy Prince, is a horse that me and Alexa liked a little bit last year. He's from north of the border. He's from up at Woodbine, and he's run some really good races. He just comes off of a stakes win. I'll also be using the number 9, AG Bullet. He's actually my top selection in that race. Had a brutal trip last time out, got stuck behind horses. He tried to move up the rail and it just got shut off. So AG Bullet will be tough in there. I'm going to use the 2, 4, and the 9. Let's turn the page to race number 10. It's the grade 3 Penn and Ridge. The number 1, Zulu Kingdom, he's the horse to beat, no doubt about it. But I like a couple others in there. Flying Mohawk actually ran in the Kentucky Derby. That's the horse that's owned by Jason Worth. He's going to get back to the turf, and that's his preferred surface. So Flying Mohawk in the mix for me. Tom's Magic, he can sit close. I think he had some legitimate trouble in the Transylvania, which was his most recent race. I'm actually going to use a horse in this race who's a maiden. He's never even won, but he's in a stakes race. That's Noble Confessor, because Noble Confessor was really close to Zulu Kingdom when they raced against each other last year. And if you kind of go through their pattern, I think Noble Confessor is pretty close to having the same sort of talent as that runner and should be a way bigger price. So we'll use the 1, 4, and the 9 there. We move to the Woody Stevens. This one is one of the tougher races in the sequence. We went through the individual race preview earlier for you. I'm going to throw in the 4, Patch Adams. I'm going to throw in the 5, Citizen Bull, who's cutting back in distance. I really like the 7, Colloquial, who has a huge speed figure and has been one of the more talented in the field. And I'm also going to use the 11, Gate to Wire. So I think he's going to be one of the closers in there who could sit back and who could make one late run. 4, 5, 7, 11 for me. We move to the Manhattan. We just previewed that race for you. It's race number 12 on Saturday at Saratoga. In there, I'm going to use the 2, Integration, the 4, Carson's Run, who I think is kind of sneaky of the Clement runners. We'll also use the 6, Spirit of St. Louis, 2, 4, and 6, 3 deep for me in there. And then if I can make it to the Belmont, to race number 13, I'll be alive with Baeza and with journalism, with those two to try to close out my pick 5. So that's my pick 5. Alexa, how are you going to play the pick 3?
Yeah, I'm going to do the pick 3, Gino. I have a love-hate relationship with pick 5s. I prefer to do like rolling pick 3s throughout the day, so I don't have to get 5 right in a row, but I can still, if I get 3 right in a row, you can still cash very, very decently off of pick 3s. So starting with the race 11, the Woody Stevens, I, like Gino, am spreading in here. It's just a tough race. I'll use the 3, Macho Music, who's consistently improving, coming off of a win streak, and has pretty decent odds at 8-1. The 4, Patch Adams, which was both Gino and my top pick in here. The setup just makes sense for him, his improvement. He's just looking to be in peak form. And then the 7, Colloquial, who's 2 for 3 in his life, and the one he did lose was just by a nose, and has just tactical ability to handle how the race sets up. And then the 10, Chancer McPatrick, who is a closer, and considering all the pace contention there's going to be, I think he should like the setup and has won at these conditions before at Saratoga. And then race 12, my ticket kind of looks like an upside down Christmas tree. I'm using 4 horses, then 3 horses, then 2 horses. So it's like a funnel. But the Manhattan, I'm using the 2, Integration. He's at the board in 9 of 13 starts and really tough races, loves these long turf routes. The 5, Deterministic, who was my top pick in here, is probably going to be the pace setter and try to wire the field. And then 6, Spirit of St. Louis, that likely tepid favorite, who's just really doing well, running in big races. Picked him to win at long odds, like Gino said, in January down at Gulfstream. And yeah, so 3 horses in that. And then we get to the Belmont, and I'm just using 2 in here. I'm using Rodriguez, who's been missing all his big chances in these races because he had an injury, but he's back, and I think has a chance to really wire the field. And then the horse who, as a fan, and I just hope wins, is Journalism, who will be the favorite. So as a bettor, I'll probably root for Rodriguez, but as a fan, I would love to see Journalism win after he's shown us such an incredible Triple Crown season with his performances in both the Derby and Preakness. So there's my ticket. It's $24. Not too bad, and hopefully will bring a big return.
Maybe you want to play a little bit bigger, you can take a swing with mine. If you want to play a little smaller and take a few shots, you can go with Alexa's. We wish you all the best of luck on Belmont Stakes Saturday. We'll see you again real soon here on Sports Grid.